This week is Shabbat Zachor. You saw we had the extra Sefer out for the Maftir. It's the Shabbat immediately before Purim. And there's one tradition that in Yemei HaMashiach, in the days of the Messiah, the only holiday that we will continue to keep is Purim. Because Purim is a time that we helped ourselves instead of relying on God's saving. We all know the story. Mordecai sends word to Esther that there's this plot against the Jews. And then Esther sends back, well, I haven't been called to the king for a month now. I don't know when he's going to call me back. You don't appear in front of the king just willy-nilly. You have to wait. And yet, Mordecai responds to her, do not imagine that you will escape with your life just because you're in the king's palace. If you keep silent, relief and deliverance will come to the Jews from another place. And who knows? Perhaps you have attained royal position just for this crisis. And in that moment, Esther decides to overcome her fear and act. The text tells us, V'tilbash Esther Malchut. It's usually translated as, and Esther put on royal clothing, royal garments. But the Hebrew words actually mean, and Esther put on royalty. It wasn't about the clothes. In this moment, Esther, though rightfully terrified for her life, decides she's going to fake it till she makes it. She stands up. I imagine her standing there in a virtual Superman pose, good power pose, and says to Mordecai, all right, Lech kinos et kol ha-Yehudim v'tzumu alai v'al tochlu v'al tishtu shloshet yamim avo el hamelach asher lo kedat v'ka'asher avadati. Go and assemble all the Jews and fast in my behalf. Do not eat or drink for 3 days. I shall go to the king, though it is contrary to the law, and if I perish, I perish. Not once is God mentioned, not in the entire book of Esther. Esther is not sure of her success. She's acknowledged that this is a fight that must be fought. It's a fight she may lose with lethal consequences. Avadati, if I perish, I perish. But that doesn't matter. Her courage is tremendous. To conquer one's fear by moving forward through this fear. And it doesn't matter if it's something like being afraid of the dark. It doesn't matter if it's a fear of flying. To be able to stand up, to move forward when you are afraid, that is true courage. It's a Jewish trait. We don't back down. The Torah says over and over, we are a stiff-necked people, and it is a term we deserve. We fight for what's right. It's what led us to be at the forefront of labor rights, of civil rights, of the women's movement. And it's what led Jews to enlist in numbers well beyond our percentages when war called for it. It's the reason we're still here today. And it's the reason that though all other ancient tribes disappeared, we've been able to adapt and evolve, and it's the reason we will continue forever. V'tilbash malchut. The Torah tells us we are to be a kingdom of priests. We are to acknowledge that we, each and every one of us, has a role to play in this world. We put on royalty to lead, and we do what needs to be done, even when the results are not ideal, even when the results are unknown. We do it for our world, we do it for our country, we do it for our community, we do it for our families, and we do it for ourselves. The Tilbash Malchut, together we will put on royalty, together we'll make the world a better place, and together we'll make sure that we maintain. Shabbat Shalom. The service continues.